Good afternoon. My name is Mike Goodspeed, and I would like to discuss today how we can effectively use today's communication tools in a collaborative type environment for virtual teams to be successful. And let's dive into it and kind of review the agenda we're going to discuss today. So we're going to cover the email, both format and some of the etiquette ground rules around effectively using email in the business environment in virtual teams. I also want to discuss instant messaging in collaboration with email, how you can effectively communicate quickly across distances within virtual teams to address client needs and projects. And then want to discuss social media and the proper uses for that today. Social media has started off in the personal area. Most of us use social media today. Recently, just the last 2-3 years, businesses have really increased their use of social media for both marketing, collaboration, and networking across their partner networks. So we need to kind of cover what are the effective uses of social media and how you separate the personal use from business use. So I have a few slides dedicated to that. And then online electronic meeting, kind of how you prepare for that. It's actually a little bit easier to do face-to-face meetings if everyone's at the same location versus the more distributed virtual teaming that a lot of us in the information technology industry use today. So it will be a nice primer for everyone in a virtual team to understand how to conduct a electronic virtual meeting, some of the steps you need to do for preparation, that type of thing. And that's what we're going to cover in a brief 15 to 20 minutes today. And then we'll have a brief wrap up, okay? So for an introduction to electronic communications, all of these different mechanisms have come into play in the business world at different areas. I remember back in the early days of even computers, we didn't even have email systems. Those really came to the forefront in the early 1980s with distributive terminal systems and PCs. And those started off as host-based systems, so if you were within an organization, you could email, but it was very difficult to email to people in an external organization. Only when the internet started getting more popular use did you have a tool through the communication mechanisms that allowed you to start interacting with the different email systems. Primarily those systems today that are using the email are Microsoft's Outlook, Yahoo, Gmail, both in the government sector. There's heavily use of Gmail now by the federal government sector, and also personal use. And then the old IBM Notes system used to be Lotus. When we look at instant messaging started off as a chat type service similar to email in a dedicated LAN type environment restricted to that defined group. As we moved more into the browser-based technologies for the internet, it allowed us to collaborate a lot more with instant messaging. Now in today's world, with the way that we use personal mobile devices, we really need to cover the etiquette steps on instant messaging really within the business place. And there's been real, until probably the last 5 years, resistance to using instant messaging effectively in the day-to-day business world. So we need to cover that a little bit. Social media, we already talked about that. That's pretty much Google+, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and some other social media sites. They have all started in more the personal realm, the networking group use of social media, and now business has really dived in. LinkedIn, if you really look at that, that is more of a professional networking social media site that's heavily used by business now in actually networking for new opportunities. So that's a good example. And then the electronic meeting software has really come to the forefront in just the 2000s. Taken all the other technologies, kind of combining them and allowing us through also voice over IP networking, not your traditional long distance phone lines, but actually using digital voice through the internet. By combining all those technologies into electronic media, it allows us to effectively take virtual teams across geographic distances and act like we're all in the same room. So it does really allow you to expand the use of virtual teaming. So let's go look at how we want to use these communication tools in each section for the proper use within the virtual team. For the email use format, everyone's aware of email formats. This is a format that I kind of found useful in some of the guidelines for effective email use in the business world. The two-line. Everyone typically invites everyone and their brother to an email discussion or sending out information. You should only address the email to the people that really need that information. Don't copy everybody. Also, the copy line, only address people that need to know that you're not really needing to address an issue, but they need it for background. Be very careful about how many people you add here. And as you can see in my example, as I go down through each one of the items, I kind of stress where that item is in the email format here. So under the subject should be a brief communication on what the topic is. The body, you have both an introduction, the body of what the discussion is, the next steps, and really what you're going to follow up on. And that's what the A, B, and C here is on the slide. The key point on email format structure is your signature line. It identifies who you are, your title, the company you're working for. In today's mobile world with the smartphones and all, and how they're tied into the company email systems, it's very easy to pull up this email and actually contact me if you have a question by clicking on my phone number here. I don't necessarily have to be in the contact list for that to work. That's why it's very key that everyone kind of use signature formats in their emails and email responses so that we can effectively communicate across the virtual team. And I think that's a key point there. All right, so what we want to next do is talk about some etiquette items. Basic guidelines, refrain from sending one-liners. Everyone gets email workload today that can be pretty extensive. Only email information that you need to go tell someone about, or that you're responding to someone that's requested you some information. Have a clear subject line. Don't, after you forward several times, you really have to kind of clean that up. That's another item I have down here. Provide a warning on large attachments. With just the last two and a half years, the use of cloud type technology for attachments, you can actually just add the links at the bottom of your email and have those as reference points, and then you don't flood everyone's email inboxes with very large attachments. They can pull down the attachment if they need to actually reference it. And it's still secure because only those people that get the email have access to the link. Send and copy only on a need-to-know basis. So be careful about the CYA type emails that a lot of people attempt to do. Respond in a timely fashion. So most emails, if they're important, should be dealt with within a 24-hour time frame. And that's very important. Avoid using exclamation marks and never use a message that's all caps. That is just not good business sense. And along with avoiding all caps, be careful. Do not send angry emails. If you're upset about a situation and communicating within the team, go ahead and step back, reread your message before you send it. Don't just hit the enter key right away after you send something. After you create the message or the response. Please remember to focus on business. Discuss only public business matters. Be careful with confidential information. A lot of the email systems today, you can restrict access where you cannot forward the email. Please use that if you're dealing with confidential information, because it's very easy for people to forward emails. Avoid using shortcuts. In other words, what I'm trying to say here on this bullet point is don't combine instant messaging with email systems. Email systems are formal communications. Instant messaging is a different jargon with the shorthand notations, and we'll discuss that in a minute. Keep emails clean on the chain. So if you get in a repeated email chain back and forth, please go back and clean that up. Don't have all the R : signs in the subject line. Maintain privacy. Know your audience. In other words, only discuss the business topics that are in the emails. Don't bring in a new topic. Go create a new email and send that out to the addressees on that new topic. And pick up the phone. Most people try to just deal through email today. It's very important to pick up the phone and have the conversation if there's issues that need to be resolved. Okay, now we're going to proceed on to instant messaging. How is instant messaging different from email? We have a whole generation today that's used to just, they don't even pick up the phone and call each other, they just text each other all day long. That's really what instant messaging is. So you have to be careful that instant messaging is not a replacement for email. And it's a conversation between 2 points of people, not a group of people. Although it does have the capability to do groups. Instant messaging communications kind of came out of an integrated chat support. So most email systems being used in business today have a feature for instant messaging. Those instant messaging systems are good for communicating with people that are currently online. And so a chat occurs within a room or a group, like a room, a virtual room on a website, or within electronic meeting forum. IM is usually a list of contacts in your software, and it will tell you who's online and who isn't, who's busy and who's not, and you can just go ahead and ping them and ask them a quick question. That's usually what IM is used for. Lately, we've actually been taking IM systems and merging them with business systems from our clients or other partners. And so it's caused a lot of business units to come up with formal rules for using IM today, because you're actually discussing business issues with outside people and making commitments that may not be in some kind of tracking system. So it takes certain ground rules to be able to pick that up. And again, because of that, you deal with some risk and liabilities with using IM that you do need to address in the business area. We are very careful not to send attachments through our IM systems, because in some cases, some of our clients may not be properly filtering for viruses those attachments, and where they're bypassing the standard email systems. Compliance risk drives standards for use. So you do see where there are standards for use with IM. A good case in point is one of our federal agencies were really worried about email systems, so they asked if IM was being tracked. In most businesses that I know today, they track both email and IMs, and they're fully backed up, so they can be retained and it is discoverable in any compliance situation, unless you're in the federal government, apparently. A little joke there. And then trade secret leakage. So you've got to be very careful about using IM, because it is discoverable. So what has happened is most brokerage firms today dealing with the stock exchanges do not accept instructions through instant messaging or chats at all. Their brokers are actually, in their current trading systems, restricted from using those tool sets. So that's something that's happened over just the last couple of years because of